Pequot, Eastern Pequot, Scaticoke, Golden Hill Paugussett, Niantic, The International Festival of Arts and Ideas is created and produced on the traditional lands of the Mohegan, Mashantucket Pequot,
These doors can be
Eastern
used to exit the
Pequot,
theater in the highly unlikely
Scaticoke,
event
Golden
of an
Hill
emergency.
Paugussett,
Please note the use of
Niantic,
cameras
and the
and recording
Quinnipiac,
devices at any
in the
time
land
during
we
this
all
performance
call
is
home,
prohibited.
Connecticut.
Finally, please
We hope
unwrap
that
any
from wherever
candy and
you
turn
are,
off any cell
you take a
phones or
moment to
electronic
acknowledge
devices
and
which
honor
might make
the
noise
native
during the
people
performance.
whose land you are
Thank
on
you.
and the
Enjoy the
history
show.
of the place you are in.
The International Festival of Arts and Ideas stands in solidarity with Black and Brown communities and other groups who are targeted and abused by
You don't have to. You can snap. Yes, let's hear that. Thank you. Well, welcome. Welcome to the University Theater. Welcome to the first Ideas Talk of the 2022 International Festival of Arts and Ideas. It's actually the first time. Can you all hear me? Okay. It's actually the first time that we are in person for an Ideas Talk in over 2 years. And so this is a pretty big moment for us. And I think it's even a bigger moment because now you can hear me and the microphone's working. So my name is Shelly Kiala, and I'm the executive director of the International Festival of Arts and Ideas. And I want to thank you for being here and welcome you, both those that are in person as well as those who are joining us online. I'm thrilled we could be here today in this space, having this conversation. The Ideas series is an 18 long series of talks, mostly talks, some conversations that are happening over the course of the next couple of weeks. A couple of them have already happened. And we are so grateful to the partnership with Connecticut Humanities that have sustained this series over the last 2 years when we've been virtual, and that relationship is continuing to push us into the future. So we're thankful for that. This particular Ideas conversation today is also supported by WSHU Public Radio and by the Narrative Project, based right here in New Haven. We also have some sponsors that take care of the cost for the entire festival with us. Yale University, the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven, the National Endowment for the Arts, the State of Connecticut, the City of New Haven, and we also are sustained by gifts from hundreds of people throughout the community and beyond. It really does take a village to make this happen. So I can't think of a better person to lead this first talk, or to be with us for this first talk today. Brave, committed, artful, loving, incredibly skilled, and super prepared don't even begin to describe the person that is Andrea Jenkins. And I bet you're here because you think so too. Andrea is and has been a trailblazer in Minneapolis, St. Paul, which is where she and I first met a number of years ago. She's also been and has been and is a trailblazer nationally and internationally. She's been faced with adversity in her leadership as a city council person whose district held the very space where George Floyd was murdered. And she's also been pushed she's also taken on even more profound leadership positions as the city council chairperson, leading with heart in a space that needs that so much right now. We have much to learn from her. Andrea Jenkins knows heartache, knows healing, knows love, knows art, knows social change. Andrea will be joined by Nadine Ruff, who's moderating the conversation. She has been an activist in LGBTQ issues within Connecticut. She's the founder of the trans support group called Divinely You and is a publisher, very well respected in her own right. Following today's talk, there will be a time for a book signing, so if you brought your book with you, you'll have a chance to get that signed. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming to the stage in our very first Ideas Talk, Andrea Jenkins and Nadine Ruff.
Sorry about that. Hello, Shelley, thank you so much for that incredible introduction. And wow, what a great audience we have tonight. How you guys doing? Yeah? We are intimate but energetic, right? Hey, man, my name is Andrea Jenkins, and I am the president of the Minneapolis City Council. How y'all doing today? Man, what an honor it is to be here with you all today on this unceded ancestral homelands of the Quinnipiac peoples and so many other indigenous tribes who call this community home, some of whom are extinct now, in a nation built on stolen labor, right? That's the context in which we need to have all public conversations, in my opinion, and I try to incorporate that in my talks. It's Pride Month, so happy Pride. Happy Pride, everybody. To everybody who identifies as LGBTQIA+, so that includes allies too. And I think since we're such a small group, man, let's just try to build some community here. And I know this is being live streamed, and so if you guys want to join in with this, please do. In fact, I'm inviting you to. And I think we just do some group breathing for a few minutes to kind of just settle ourselves into this space, into this conversation, to this talk that I'm calling Black Love in a Time of Social Justice. And so I'm going to invite us all to just take 3 deep breaths through our nose, exhale through our mouths. We all have on masks, so, or at least y'all all have on masks anyway. But let's do this together. So I'll count to 3, and then we'll take our first breath. 1, 2, 3. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Thank you. So another little community building exercise, like, you know, who do you think should be here in this conversation tonight, right? Like, who would you have invited to be here, or you think needs to be here? They can be deceased, they can be living here among us, family, celebrity, social justice warrior, and we just want to invite them to be here with us in this small, little, intimate conversation. And I will start it off by just naming, and hopefully we can kind of name these people out loud so they are with us in this space. And I'm going to start out by naming my deceased father, Andrea Jenkins. Anyone else? Marsha P. Johnson. Harvey Milk. Urvashay Biad, who just passed away 2 weeks ago, one of the founders of the LGBTQIA+ modern movement, civil rights attorney, founder of the conference Creating Change, and so many other amazing contributions to social justice. Yeah, you know, it's an amazing time to be on the planet right now. And I just want to talk about a few ideas, share a little art, and relate it all to social justice. And again, I'm calling this Black Love in a Time of Social Justice. Justice is what loves look like in public. Reverend Dr. Cornel West. Che Rivera, freedom fighter, states, "The true revolutionary is guided by principles of love." Love. Live with a sense of physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. Oh, own their financial future, including the ability to create generational wealth. V, vote to protect Black interests. And E, excel in all that they do and amplify the narratives of Black excellence. LOVE, love. Tanya Allen, CEO of the McKnight Foundation. So, since January 1st, 2022, I've been doing this, my own little public art project, I think I'm calling it. And I've been doing or signing all of my email communications with love. Not with love, as in WITHLOVE Andrea, but just love, Andrea. It doesn't matter if it's to my staff, to my family members, or to total strangers. And it's been about 6 months now, and the experiment is still going. I'm pretty sure some of you who I've been communicating with via email have been kind of maybe taken a little bit aback, or at least feel some level of uncomfortableness, because it's very rare that we demonstrate love in public. And so it's just love, Andrea, love, apostrophe, Andrea. And, you know, as the city council president, I get a lot of less than pleasant emails, as you may imagine, right? Like complaining about taxes, potholes, racial justice, police brutality. and my response includes my sign-off, love, Andrea. And, if it's not impacting other people, it's certainly having an impact on myself. Because I have to then think, if I'm going to sign this email with love, Andrea, then I want this message to kind of reflect that, right? It can't be contradictory to that sentiment. And I'm doing this not to be cute, not to be condescending or ingenuine even. I'm doing this because the only way that we can fight the rampant hatred in our communities, in our country, in this world, is with love. MLK says, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. So as a public official, I'm trying to do my part. As Shelley pointed out, I represent the ward that George Floyd was murdered in. I live there, 2 blocks away. I've been working at this intersection for well over 25 years to try to change the landscape, change the environment, and we were doing a pretty good job. 3 weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, May 25th, we commemorated the 2-year anniversary of the death of George Floyd by renaming the intersection George Perry Floyd Jr. Square. So now it is officially George Floyd Square. And even prior to that, the activists had really claimed this space as sacred space, as a space where people have been a pilgrimage. It's kind of hard to come out. Pilgrimage, which is probably not even a word, but making a journey to this place from all over the world. Like I said, it's an intersection that I have poured a quarter of my life to improving the conditions for those living at and around the intersection. This inner city corner with Cup Foods as the sole business, like so many other communities, Black communities in the country that have corner stores that are owned by foreigners and seemingly serves as a magnet for criminal behavior. And that intersection, Cup Foods, which I'm sure all of you have seen over and over and over on a somewhat strange loop, because it's the backdrop for Derek Chauvin and his knee on George Floyd's neck. Our overarching strategy for revitalizing that corridor was to utilize the arts as a means of stabilizing the corridor. Centering local artists, women, people of color, and utilizing anti-gentrification principles to ensure that no one was displaced. That vision, to a large extent, had been realized. It was anchored by the Chicago Avenue Fire Arts Center and the Third Place Gallery Studio of internationally recognized photographer Wing Young Huey. the intersection had truly ushered in this new era of economic development. City Food Studio, which is a small business incubator that's home to 3 Black-owned restaurants and multiple other small businesses, had really made this a thriving corridor. And then on May 25th, 2020, all of you and the entire world bore witness through the eyes of Pulitzer Prize-winning citizen journalist Darnella Frazier. She captured the public lynching of an unarmed Black man. This single action, this perpetuation of white supremacy, systemic to all institutions in our society, forever changed this intersection from what I had always called the soul of the city to the soul of this nation. And when I say that the world was watching, it could easily be argued that that's an understatement. Every night for 2 years, news helicopters fly overhead, starting before sunrise in the morning and deep, deep into the night. Embedded reporters from all over the world have created like this cottage industry for photographers, videographers, and writers in our area. And for the past 2 years, these self-described caretakers of George Floyd Square have really created what they call an autonomous zone, what everybody in the city calls an autonomous zone, in fact. And they have presented us, the city, with a list of 24 demands that contribute to the elusive concept of justice. What is justice? Wikipedia says justice in its broadest sense is the principle that people receive that which they deserve, with the interpretation of what then constitutes deserving being impacted by numerous fields, with many differing viewpoints and perspectives, including the concepts of moral correctness based on ethics, rationality, law, religion, and equity. However, we know and understand that justice is unique to each and every one of us. During the days of the unrest, the art that proliferated instantly throughout the entire city, expressions of anger, frustration, resolve, and revolution, but it also called for love, peace, hope, justice for George Floyd and so many other people who had been, whose lives have been cut short by state violence, by community-based violence, by economic and domestic violence. And then there was the trial. Derek Chauvin. Guilty, guilty, guilty on all 3 counts. The former police officer is now officially branded a murderer. And that's the outcome we don't see every day. You know, people still, you know, the 2-year commemoration, I got calls from all of these journalists all over the country, Washington Post, New York Times, LA Times, like everybody. What's changed? What's changed? I mean, we sent 4 officers to jail. Like, that does not happen in the United States very often. We held them accountable, right? And if holding police accountable means full accountability, we also put $27 million in the pockets of the family members of George Floyd. $270 million would not be enough to replace the grief that they are experiencing because of the death of their loved one. But that is, accountability for this very, very heinous act. Jerry Blackwell, one of the attorneys, called those amazing witnesses a bouquet of humanity. And even the police chief testified that this act went against all department protocol. And I think that moment represents some change. And it certainly calls for deep systemic change. At the core of our problems in this society is systemic racism. It fuels capitalism, patriarchy, and police brutality. That's why I, as a city council member, have called on my colleagues to declare racism as a public health crisis. And until we name and then begin the difficult work of becoming anti-racist, anti-sexist, anti-transphobic society, we will continue to have the disparities in every aspect of American life for Black and brown communities. Once we name it and frame it, then we must repair the harms. Once again, as a city council member, I initiated a Truth and Reconciliation work group to begin the process of developing an ongoing commission that will analyze, advise, and implement policies and initiatives that recalibrates the wealth equation that currently holds marginalized communities down. And to really bring justice to George Floyd Square and to all of Minneapolis, and more broadly, the type of justice that contributes to and sustains public safety everywhere, it requires building deeply affordable housing. Not only that, we must subsidize real people, not just developers. We have to develop and train folks for green living wage jobs, sustaining our community while building wealth. We absolutely have to assist with home ownership opportunities to build wealth now and into the future. And we must invest in small businesses and support their efforts to serve the community while taking care of their respective families. Lastly, we must commit to creating a fitting and worthy memorial not only to George Floyd, but to all victims of state and police violence, a memorial to social justice, and a center for anti-racist training, to not only serve as a vessel that holds our collective narrative, but also lets the healing begin. So that's a little bit about George Floyd Square, and I hope we talk a little bit about it. Right after George Floyd was murdered on June 7th, which was Prince's birthday, and we just renamed the street after Prince, too, after 5 years of his death. But we had this big gathering in the park, and they called all the council members to come together and talk about defunding the police. And they asked me to write a poem, the organizers. And I'm like, really? Y'all want me to write a poem in one day? But it happened. And it's called Quarantine Soul. And remember, this was like in the beginning of the pandemic. There were racial uprisings going on all over the country. And in my community, Like, people were literally sleeping under their beds. We felt like we were under attack. We had no police, the fire department, like, you know, eventually the State Patrol came in and National Guard, et cetera, but it was a very, very tumultuous and traumatic time. But I cranked out a poem in the midst of that. It's called Quarantine Soul. I only think of you on 2 occasions, baby, and that's day and night. Babyface. One Sunday morning, I listened to the entire discography of Luther Vandross. It made me smile. I cleaned my entire house, one room at a time. I found a jar of Miracle Whip dated used by 6/8/2008. Little Richard, the founding father of rock and roll, passed on. Oh, Lucille, why can't you be true? Our babies falling asleep at the breakfast table that doubles as their school desk. Homeschool mom's rule. Mother's Day came and went, socially distant days and nights, singularity, solo dinner for one. Epic moments moves things. Epic moments make movements. Epic movements start with moments. 61 seconds was a moment. Jamar Clark was a movement. Oh, Lord, we miss Prince right now. He'd probably say something like, dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life. Prince went to Baltimore, wrote a song when Freddie Gray was killed, was murdered, throat crushed, back broke. Yeah, Freddie got the knee choke too. There's a deeper, darker side, nefarious forces operating just under the surface. It's like watching The Last Dance, make you want to stand in line for 48 whole hours to get them new Airs or Yeezys or that Popeye's fried chicken sandwich. Yeah, that's my addiction. Love it when mama frying up them wings in the kitchen. Yeah, but now we can't breathe, because Ahmaud Arbery was murdered in the streets and Breonna Taylor was murdered in the sheets. It's being treated without respect. It's having to fight for everything. It's not getting the same chances. It's being left out like you don't matter. It's death. I grew up listening to Public Enemy in real time. I dialed 911 a long time ago. Don't you see how late they reacting? They only come, and they come when they want to then bring the morgue truck and involve the coroner. Quarantine blues. Sitting at home thinking of a master plan. Elizabeth Alexander asked, what if the mightiest word was love? We sing songs, dance dances, paint pictures, documenting our pain for the world to witness, but nothing changes. Nothing ever changes. Minneapolis, goddamn! We can't breathe. The EPA eased restrictions on polluting our communities, coronavirus attacking our lungs. America's got his knee on our necks. Mama, it hurts. My back hurts. My stomach hurts. Everything hurts. They are going to kill me. White supremacy is a public health crisis, and we got the cure. So what do you want to talk about next? Beauty's revolution? You wouldn't use that word if you knew what it meant. It ain't pretty. It's bloody. It overturns things. Somewhere in America tonight, somebody is saying, make America great again. We say emphatically, no. Somewhere in America tonight, somebody is saying, why don't they just go home? We say defiantly, no. Somewhere in America tonight, somebody is asking, what do they want? We say demandingly, we want change. Change the way we educate our children, change the way we employ our communities, change the way we live and treat each other, change the way we keep our communities safe. There's a new breeze blowing in. Young voices are taking over. When you put your knee on George Floyd's neck, you woke up a sleeping giant. Young voices said no. They said, when we know justice, you will know peace. No justice, no peace. Hashtag Ayanna Dior, stop killing black trans women. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, a couple of just things, and I want to make sure we get some time for some Q&A and some conversation with Nadine, because I'm really looking forward to that. But I do just want to point out today that all over the country, young people are marching for our lives, against gun violence. As a politician, I support sane, rational gun laws. In fact, if I had any power over it, we would not have guns in our society. And there's no need for us to have weapons of mass destruction. And any gun is a weapon of mass destruction, let's be real clear. One of the students at Stoneman Douglas High School is a sophomore at Yale now, a young lady named Sari Kaufman. So I just want to point her out. She's still activated since 2018 when that traumatic shooting happened, and is majoring in political science at Yale. Marched this morning to support sane gun rights, you know. So the young people they doing their part. We all need to be doing our part as well. You know, I do want to just give my deep condolences to the families of the victims in Uvalde, Texas, and you know, previously the weekend before that in Buffalo, New York. Every day in Chicago and Detroit and Minneapolis and, you know, I suspect even New Haven, where gun violence is taking over our communities and creating all of this unnecessary grief and pain and trauma that we as a society need to work beyond. So thank you, New Haven Ideas and Arts Festival, for inviting me to be a part of this conversation today. And I think we're going to invite Nadine out. I'm not sure where Nadine is, but we're going to have a little conversation, and hopefully you guys have some questions or comments or thoughts that you want to share. Hey, Nadine.
Start by, is it on? Oh, testing. Start by saying it's truly an honor and a privilege to be here, especially to be here with you, Andrea.
Thank you. Thank you.
If the audience have any questions, you can use the code, I guess. But so far there isn't any.
Okay.
So I'd like to start. Like you were mentioning, how is it to be? I'm really impressed with you being on the city council, being a trans woman of color. How was that for you?
It's an amazing honor. I mean, just being an elected official, period, I think is, it's a huge responsibility. You know, that your community says, hey, we put our faith in you to represent our values, our issues, our concerns, et cetera, et cetera. But to be, you know, a black trans woman, a person who has been villainized and marginalized and oppressed and ostracized in many, many communities, and to be able to rise to what arguably some people might say the most powerful position in the city. You know, I mean, it's amazing. But I will tell you all that anybody who is in elected office right now, it's a very challenging time to be leading at all levels of government. I mean, you know, we never think of school board members, and they are now having people attacking their homes and, you know, expressing very negative viewpoints. Governors are being, you know, threatened with lynching. And, you know, I've had people spray paint graffiti in front of my house. And I don't know, last year at Pride, I got accosted at Pride by a young man. You know, I heard he's queer, but he clearly doesn't know me, you know, because he made a statement that I just showed up at Pride for a photo op. And I'm like, no, sir, like, I literally was in the founding stages of POC Pride, you know, like, we founded that. So, you know, I could have put up photos from the past 25 years if that was all I needed, if that's what I wanted to do. So it's a difficult time to be a politician, but it's also an honor. You know, for some reason, the goddess, the creator, I don't know, for whatever reason, I'm situated in the midst of this global racial reckoning. And both sides are fighting equally as hard. I mean, the trial the other day, January 6th hearings, that, you know, white supremacy is live and well and fighting hard to maintain their power and dominance. So, you know, but I'm glad to be in the fight. When I was running for office, I used to say in my first campaign, I would say, you know, because Trump had just got elected, which is kind of why I was like, okay, I got to do this. You know, cities are going to be at the forefront of change in our country, because we can't count on the federal government to do it, because this dude is going to, gum up the whole system, which was correct. And I would kind of jokingly say at campaign events, like, if we're going to hell in a handbasket on a burning bus, I want to be the one driving. Little did I know that that would be our literal reality. Because you guys, we're on a burning bus right now. As a politician, as a black descendant of slaves, I have to be optimistic, because that's the only way that we ever made it through this journey. But it's looking kind of bleak right now, and we got to make some changes, and I think we can. But it's going to require a lot of work.
Okay. So my next question is, like you said, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And I do know by research and being a black woman with the trans experience that there are a lot of trans women of color a lot of trans people of color being killed daily. And how what do you have in line to as a council person to make a change with that?
Yeah, no, I think there's a number of reasons why trans and gender nonconforming and non-binary people are consistently experiencing violence and murder in our society. I think it's particularly harmful for black and brown people of transgender experience and who may not identify as male or female. I think that people are, you don't have access to housing, you don't have access to education because so many people are, ostracized in public institutions. We literally have, laws that are making it almost impossible for for trans and gender nonconforming people to be in public. If you can't go to the bathroom in public spaces, which is a human reality, right? Like, every human being has to go to the bathroom all the time. Me, as a 61-year-old trans woman, I gotta go a lot. Every place I go, I'm like, where's the bathroom? Let me scope it out. And here's the other thing, trans people have been going to the bathroom since the beginning of time.
Come on now, come on.
Right? So how did this now become a problem? So, I think all of those conditions lead to, if you're homeless, then you're, and trans, you're on the streets at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. You don't have a job, so now you are trying to make ends meet in different kinds of ways. Sex work is criminalized in our communities, in our society, and so you're in society has forced you into these situations that make living dangerous.
Yes, to survive.
To survive, exactly. So, to that end, like, as a city council member, we banned conversion therapy in the city of Minneapolis, which has led to St. Paul, which is our twin cities, banning conversion therapy in their community. We're working on a statewide ban. We have made we've passed safer conditions for sex workers in our community, and have really included sex workers in, like, when the pandemic hit and the government was sort of supporting a lot of workers, as it were, but gig economy workers weren't included in those things. Sex workers weren't included in those kinds of supports. And so, as a city, I was able to bring forward some changes and provide resources to those communities. And again, we passed some laws that really tried to contribute to making sex work a healthier and more viable option in strip clubs and other kinds of industries where sex work exists. So, doing some of those things, ensuring that we got resources to trans and gender nonconforming people during the uprising. We've created, I founded, and now this will be the 9th year, what we call the trans, wow.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I can't believe this is slipping my brain right now, but it's the Trans Equity Summit. So the Trans Equity Summit at the City of Minneapolis. It's a City of Minneapolis sponsored event. It's a day-long sort of community conference. We invite national speakers to come in. We have workshops and opportunities for employment and training, options for trans and gender nonconforming people. So we've been putting that on for the past, this will be our 9th year. So yeah, trying to just ensure that trans voices, trans and gender nonconforming issues are front and center and respected and included in our social dialogue. I also serve on the board of the Transgender Legal Education Defense Fund, Tell Deaf, which is a national organization that helps transgender people with legal issues and concerns. We have a name change clinic that we help support various groups and attorneys all around the country to help trans and gender nonconforming people with getting their name changed legally, which still is a challenge for a lot of people. I serve on the board of the Transgender Fund, which raises money from the trans community and specifically provides money to POC-led, trans-led groups all around the country. So, I'm trying to do my part in many, many ways on the front lines of the battle, yeah.
So I'd like to congratulate because you're doing a lot of great work. I guess at this time, there's a time for Q&A. So is there any questions? Or any?
My background, I did research on trans discrimination in DC, the DC government. So I'm wondering, there was a policy report I did research, and I'm wondering, from your perspective, what are policy approaches to addressing trans discrimination, specifically impacting Black trans people?
So the question is, what policies might be impactful for ensuring employment opportunities for specifically Black and Brown, trans and gender nonconforming identified communities. I think explicitly developing programs that address those, that community is how we're going to shift the paradigm. I've been advocating for this for a long time, and there are groups that are doing that. Movie actress, musical star of Pose, Angelica Ross, started a company called Trans Tech, which trains trans and gender nonconforming people in fields of technology. You know, I think the green job economy is a perfect place for trans and gender nonconforming people to really enter into the workplace. And so creating policies that make those kinds of opportunities available for people, I think is really important. And really, you know, for other communities, including trans and gender nonconforming people in the operational structures and conversations that are happening. You know, we already do this work, and it's not uncommon. We have dislocated workers programs, we have youth training programs, we have programs specifically for people over 55. So it would not be uncommon to have job and training programs specifically designed and targeted towards Black and Brown, trans, and gender nonconforming communities.
So what I hear you saying is give them a seat at the table, pretty much.
Representation is power, which is why I ran for office, and yes, if you don't, as Shirley Chisholm said, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair.
Anyone else have a question? Come on.
There's a question on here. Great question. I'm gonna do a long-winded answer, but I'm gonna get to it. I'm gonna get there. So prior to being elected to public office, I did a transgender oral history project at the University of Minnesota for the Jean Nicholas Tretter program in LGBT studies. And, you know, the reason why we had to do an oral history project is because just, you know, sort of archival materials, you know, documentation, detritus, you know, different things that make up archives historically didn't really exist for trans communities. So I interviewed over 198 different trans and gender nonconforming people, talking to them about their lives, their lived experiences, you know, how they access education, access health, family concerns and issues, employment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, you know, I talked to all of these people. One of the fascinating things about the project is that, which exists online and people can go check it out, University of Minnesota Transgender Oral History Project, Andrea Jenkins, it'll come up. It's free, which is a unique aspect to this archive. Sometimes you have to pay a membership fee to access different archives. This is all accessible to the public in multiple formats, so you can look at the video, you can just listen to the audio, read the transcripts. We even made a digital sort of exhibition that lives online that has different topics: love, career, family, you know, interactions with the police. So I encourage you all to go check it out. But man, it was like over 57 different gender identities expressed. So I'm getting to your answer. If you are a public school teacher or any kind of teaching at any level, because I teach at the college level, I teach poetry, you will see in your classrooms that the future is non-binary, right? Like, kids are coming out at 5, 6, 8 years old, and it's happening. I think that's why people are so freaking out, is because, and you don't have to teach it. You don't have to teach this. Kids are coming out, they're coming to their realities, and they know who they are internally, and they're expressing that. And so that's my optimism, is that young people are changing the world. And they're changing the world in really important ways. They're really challenging these really outdated notions of binary gender expression and identity, as well as sexualities, you know, which is just so critically important. I mean, it's a lot of lonely young white dudes that's running around shooting up people. And a lot of that is wrapped up in toxic masculinity, loneliness. If we as a society could like get these cats a girlfriend, or maybe some of them want a boyfriend, I don't know, but if we can help them out a little bit, maybe it might save my life. I know they nerds, I know they, you know, video games and Dungeons and Dragons, whatever it is, but man, we gotta bring these cats out of mama's basement.
Yeah.
Because they are literally killing us. And so I think young people are challenging these ideas and challenging these notions in ways that is shifting our culture and society. So that's my optimism. You know, and it's always going to be a struggle. Frederick Douglass said there is no power concedes nothing without struggle. And so the struggle is patriarchy. It's, you know, we talk about intersectionality, right? So this attack on abortion, this attack on reproductive rights is really about who has control over one's own body.
Correct.
So the rollback of Roe v. Wade is inextricably connected to the 330 anti-trans bills that are happening all at the same time. That's why the LGBTQIA plus community must be active in the reproductive rights movement and vice versa. It's the same fight. It's the same battle. Racism, sexism, patriarchy, that's our enemy. So in order to overcome it, we must become anti-racist. It's not enough to just not have a racist bone in your body. You must be anti-racist, which means actively working to end racism, sexism, ableism, ageism, and all the isms that are holding our community back.
Wow. So I believe we've ran out of time, but like I've said, it's truly an honor to be in the presence of a person, a transgender woman of color who's making a difference in our society. And I'm Nadine Ruff, who's moderating this, and this is
Andrea Jenkins.
Give her a round of applause, if you will, please.
And can we give Nadine Ruff a big round of applause, please?
Thank you.
And yeah, thank you for this opportunity. And I think we might be able to sign a couple of books if people have them. Thanks, everybody.